Okay, she writes, and this is, of course, from the Food Psych weekly newsletter. So yeah. The terms inflammation, puffiness, and bloating often have subtle or not so subtle fat phobic connotations.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Really? Really? Inflammation, puffiness, and bloating have subtle or not so subtle fat phobic connotations. Oh, you're going to try to take over these words? Not going to let you have them. How the fuck are you verified? You're a verified moron. How are you? This is Instagram. Fucking jokers. What a joke of a platform. All right. Christy writes, inflammation is often just wellness culture speak. Oh, Jesus. Wellness culture speak is often wellness culture speak for fat. No, it's not. It can cause fat because it causes leaky gut and other. Oh, I don't want to talk science. I forget you're in this foofy food psychology world. I forgot. Apologize for getting scientific for a second. I'll watch my language. Is often wellness culture speak for fat in a way that's perceived as somehow less weight stigmatizing. The same is true for less technical euphemisms like puffy and bloated. These are some of the many ways that diet culture has shapeshifted since the turn of the 21st century, pretending to be all about wellness when in fact it's still primarily about thinness. They're pretty closely related. It's a correlation. It's not necessarily you're thin, you're automatically healthy, but hey, side effects are true. You're not going to be fat. So if you want to call that thin, that's subjective. That's a subjective term. I should read this like one of those stupid things, like those little tours. The same is true for less technical euphemisms, like one of those work training videos, like an OSHA video or something, like puffy and bloated. These are some of the many ways that diet culture has shapeshifted since the turn of the 21st century, pretending to be all about wellness, when in fact, it's still primarily about thinness. All right, there's another paragraph, and this one's pretty juicy. And yes, before you at me, inflammation is a real thing. It's not always just a euphemism. Okay, so you're literally just countering your point you just made. Okay, the same is true for bloating. Okay. Okay, so you just said it was. Okay, so now you're like, okay. Common sense so far. All right, and so why'd you say it already then? But in my view, these conditions are definitely overdiagnosed. And they're certainly not the horrible scourges that diet culture makes them out to be. The reasons you might be experiencing them could have a lot less to do with what you're eating than how, as well as my eyes are getting all tied up in this bullshit. What you're eating, then how, as well as many other things beyond food, which is not the be all and end all of health. I say this not just as a health professional and a science nerd, but sorry, that was funny. That was funny. But also as a person with autoimmune disorders, really. And you're talking this bullshit? Digestive. So, all right, if you have autoimmune disorders, digestive disorders, and an ED history who's been down the rabbit hole of eliminating foods to supposedly heal inflammation and bloating, Christy, you haven't gone through that rabbit hole for shit. If you have autoimmune disorders and digestive disorders, you have major fucking concerns that you haven't dealt with appropriately. So I don't think you should be giving advice. And I don't think you should be talking about fat positive bullshit when you can't even handle your own gut. Sounds like you're not eating properly. Let's get to the root of this. You should try an elimination diet or maybe eating the right foods. Pretty important. In next week's edition, I answer a reader question about what to do when your functional medicine doctor says you have general inflammation and prescribes an elimination diet, even though you have a history of disordered eating and orthorexia, which are vague terms that you can just blanket. They blanket that shit everywhere. And the role that fat phobia can play in these kinds of interactions. I answer a question about what to do when your doctor actually tells you what's going on with your body and you want to default to your psychological issues and ignore science. So your functional medicine doctor's probably correct, and you need to be eliminating foods. If you have disordered eating, you need to go to an actual therapist that's going to help you, not push back against actual science and reality. So that is a lot of nonsense. That's a lot of hot fucking air. That sounds like a big loaded Duke. That's a big loaded dookie right there.